in relation to the person you are talking about.
So you may as well just come up as the presidential candidate of the multi-party charter.
No, we agreed as a multi-party charter that deciding now who will be a presidential candidate might favor the political party the person comes from to give a fair chance. Every the multi-party charter will be contesting elections alone with its manifesto. If we manage to get 50+1, then we will make a decision who will be a presidential candidate when the government is formed. But for now, it's all about campaigns, not about positions. It's about influencing people of South Africa that 24 is time for change. It's time for an alternative government that will give a new direction to our government and save our country from going down the drain under the current government.
Thank you very much, Mr. Velongo Senhlabisa, the president of the IFP. I'm handing over to my colleague, Lula Mamad.
Thank you very much, Samkele. Well, fashion is part of the State of the Nation address. I am joined by the Minister of Social Development, Lindiwe Zulu, who looks stunning. Turn around, Minister, please. Thank you very much. But we're not going to talk about your outfit. We're going to talk about this bag, because you are custodian of the vulnerable communities. Tell us more about this bag.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Of course, my outfit also is my highlight because, again, it's my daughter's creation. But this bag is also just as important because this bag is from the Cape Town Society of the Blind. We support the organization by both financial and otherwise because we think that people with disability also must be able to be given the opportunity. This is what they do, not just, they do it from scratch. They do the fabric, put it together, and they make the bag. Of course, the bag is a little bit bigger, but my daughter felt like, no, it's too big for this outfit. Let us just reduce it a little bit. Today, during the day, I spent a lot of the time. I went to St. Elysian, which is another very it's another center that we are supporting because it is a center that brings young people, some of them from the street, some of them from the townships. It's St. Elysian. They empower them with skills because while I am expecting that the president will touch particularly on the issues of the most vulnerable, in particular with the issues of social grants and all, I also am very much committed to ensuring that people are given the necessary skills so that the younger generation, the younger men and women do not depend on the social grant. We want to empower them in order for them to take care of themselves because the grants obviously are not adequate to take care of them, but the grants are a necessity in as far as supporting them while the jobs are not available, while the jobs are coming very slowly, while the economy itself, even though record today is telling us that the economy is slightly going back to pre-COVID, but when all is said and done, community members are still out there without the jobs, without food, without the basics that we take for granted. So when I see a bag like this, I went there for the new intake of people with partially blind. The Department, Social Development, as well as the National Development Agency have supported them. What I think is also important, we supported them with equipment that tests their eyes just to check how far is their disability in as far as vision is concerned. We bought the latest equipment, Japanese equipment, obviously, and we are going to make sure that those that are coming from the poorest communities, they don't have to pay anything. But they told me that in order for them to also sustain the center, they also allow other people who are able to come in and test their eyes and pay. I got my eyes tested there, so I've got my script in my hand.
Thank you very much, Minister. Minister, that was the Minister of Social Development, Lindy Wezulu. Well, there are issues because some of the NPOs are saying that they are not being funded adequately. Some are closing, but that's a story for another day. For now, let me cross to my colleague, Ava.
Thank you so much. I'm going to be speaking to the leader of the Freedom Front Plus, Dr. Groenewald, who obviously is a long-serving member of. And I'll ask you about expectations because we had that discussion with you. What I want to know from you, sir, is this is the last SONA for the 6th Parliament. Looking back the last 5 years, are you satisfied with the way your party performed?
No, not at all. I mean, we must remember when Ramaphosa became the president in 2018, because this is going to be his 8th State of the Nation address, everybody was very excited. Speaking about Ramaphosa, I actually at that stage was the only member of parliament who said, I'm not so excited, and the proof lies in the eating of the pudding. So be proven correctly, because people are very, can I say, not only disappointed, some are even disgusted with the fact that he made so many promises. And go and look, under his leadership, there were many crises which he did not deal with. He always tell us a story about there's going to be a summit on this, there's going to be a meeting of that, investors coming to South Africa. The economy declined under his leadership. Unemployment raised and increased under his leadership. He himself said that the ANC is accused number 1 when it comes to corruption. But I said to him, but you're number 1 of accused number 1. And look where we are. There are people that is actually saying that there were more corruption under Ramaphosa as his predecessor Zuma. Let's take the COVID for instance. He made a promise when they started with the disaster and said that he gave orders to the Treasury as well as the Auditor General to ensure no corruption takes place. And it's not millions, it's billions of corruption that took place. Therefore, he should apologize to the people of South Africa. Many promises made by him and they did not materialize.
Dr. Groenewald, just briefly again, coming back to this, the 6th Parliament, what are your thoughts on how Parliament performed as an institution over the past 5 years?
My impression is that the decorum of Parliament the last 6 years were actually demolished, and it is squarely on the shoulders of the Speaker to ensure that there is a decorum. Now suddenly they come with strict measures. It's too little, too late.
Thank you so much for your time, Doctor. I'm now crossing to my colleague, Samkele, over to you.
Well, Abra, indeed there are issues pertaining to defense. Minister, are you ready with your defense plan should anything shake up during the elections?
We have actually been hard at work. We have done the preliminary work on the defense review. We will take it to a wider audience. We will invite you and the security experts and have a broader discussions. We're working on the finances and we will submit back to Cabinet and to the President.
Minister, during the week of the ICJ judgment, we saw the Griffins and the Falcons flying over the airspace at OR Tambo International Airport. What was going on when you saw those fighter jets out and flying in the airspace?
Well, to be honest, we were preparing for the Air Force Day, and there was nothing sinister about it. Because you must remember, you cannot keep your machinery just standing there. You also must keep on helping people to keep up their flight hours, and that is what was happening. We will continuously upgrade, we hope, when we have finished with our plans and get the necessary resources so that you can hear more and more flies on air. But it is also good for us to remember that you do possess these things as South Africans, that at any given time, anything that might threaten the sovereignty and of this country will be ready to deal with it.
Minister, but why does it coincide with the judgment of the ICJ and where the president is at Birchwood Hotel, and we've got these falcons and griffins, 5 of them flying over Birchwood Hotel, flying over OR Tambo with the airspace closed?
No. Coincidence? Maybe it was a coincidence. Threatening anybody? No. Sending a message anywhere? No. It was purely members of the South African Air Force practicing and doing what they need to do to upgrade their skills, and not to forget that at any given moment when they are called upon, they must be able to defend their country.
Minister, this is a safe space. You can speak to us and tell us what was really going on. Why those jets out?
They were preparing for the Air Force to have a day.
But flying where the president is, flying over where the president is.
No, not necessarily. That was not necessarily. That was coincidence.
Are you sure?
I am very sure.
Thank you.
Would I lie?
I don't know, Minister. Maybe there's something you're not alerting us.
No. I can assure you, we cannot afford to make enemies out there. We can always afford to make new friends.
Cannot afford to make mistakes. Can always afford to make new friends. Coded message.
That's not coded. But anybody who... They say even when you're at your weakest, you must be able to defend your territory and to do what you can.
So you are prepared for any eventuality?
We must always prepare for all eventualities.
Thank you very much, Minister Tadi Mutis. That is over to you. Let me just grab the Minister of Communications quickly while he's running away. Lulama, over to you.
Thank you very much, Samkele. I am joined by the Minister in the Presidency looking after women, children and people with disabilities, Dr. Nkosana Dlamini Zuma. It's her last SONA because she has indicated that she's not coming back to Parliament after the elections. Ma'am, how would you rate this 6th Parliament, its performance, as well as the administration?
Well, I think we under the circumstances, we've tried. You know, there was COVID almost right at the beginning of the 6th administration, and COVID wreaked havoc both in the economy and generally health of the people. But we've now recovered from COVID, and the economy is also recovering. But maybe if it wasn't for COVID, we would have done much better.
A veteran like you leaving Parliament at this time, at this point in time, what are you going to tell us? Because I believe the country still needs a person like you.
Oh, what was I doing before I came to Parliament? There is a lot to do. I can help communities, I can help women, young people. There's a lot to do. I mean, I was not born into Parliament.
And tell me, what are you expecting to hear the President addressing when it comes to people in your portfolio?
Let's wait until he says it, then you can ask me.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That was the Minister. Let me cross to you, SK and Iman then.
I can tell you there's a lot of chuckling in the studio for good reason though, because this definitely is a safe space. You've got to admire our reporters on the carpet, their tenacity and chutzpah in asking some of the questions we all want answered. And I think one of the biggest demands that we have of the SONA is around honesty, and I can tell you it doesn't get more honest than the flower markets in Adley Street. This morning, Sakina, you were there with Delia, you were there with Levi and Sean, and they were telling you the difficulties of working in an environment like this, putting food on the table. Delia was saying, we basically work to eat.
Yes, a hand-to-mouth existence, and
people are, well, certain quarters are not happy about the situation with undocumented people in this country. What can you say about that, please?
Of course, nobody is. Undocumented people means they are illegal. There's no normal human being who will countenance the issue of illegal people in their country. So on that one, we are in total agreement. I think what brings the differences is how to deal with it. But that there should not be illegality. Actually, even internationally, a number of people call it irregular migration. Irregular migration, there will be no development. There will be chaos. There can't be any economic development. There can't be stability. And safety and security in any country. Countries will lose their sovereignty. So on that one, we're fully in agreement. The question is, how do you deal with it? And remember on the issue of porous borders, which has caused this. The NICOC, the structure that coordinates the four...
Thanks, ma'am. You can super.
Military intelligence in the army, crime intelligence in the police, civilian intelligence, state security, and financial intelligence center. When they were doing their intelligence...
Oh, sorry. You can go back to
porous borders. He said the structure must be established.
Oh, thank you.
To manage our borders. That structure was to be called Border Management Authority. Parliament took 12 years to enact an act just to get that authority into being. Home Affairs could not have established anything without an act. It took 12 years precisely because of some of the factors we are mentioning. Differences in understanding how to manage our borders, but no differences in accepting that we can't have illegal people in the country. Who would like illegal ramazamas ravaging our minds and doing all sorts of things? There's no normal human being who can support that.
Minister, thank you so much for your time. That was the Minister of Home Affairs, Erin Motsoaledi. I am now going to my colleague on the other side, Lulama.
Thank you very much, Abra. I am joined by the Minister of Tourism, Patricia de Lille. Ma'am, this is the last SONA for this administration. And as the Minister of Tourism, do you think that you have made an impact when you took over that department?
Most definitely. The relationship between the private sector and the public sector is very good. You know, government invests 1 billion rand to market our destination, South Africa, but the private sector put in about 30 billion. So we are working very well together. We've seen 8.5 million tourists coming to our country from January to December, create 1.3 million jobs and over 28 billion US dollars spent. So I think there's still room to go, and we need to be more aggressive because the world owes us nothing. We have to go out and sell ourselves.
How are we going to improve things? Do you incorporate people in rural areas in the tourism industry so that they can benefit, whether it's BAB or small businesses?
No problem. After stay there,
very hard. For the first time about 3 weeks ago,
so we're going to come back to you just
Expo, where we got all the townships and villages and small dorpies opportunity to come and market and expose what they have to offer. Working very close with Satu Vitu. But also in terms of assisting SMMEs, we are funding SMMEs. When we go to funding for 150 SMMEs that has never been exposed to an international market. We pay the airfares, we buy the space for them, and then we also assist them to sell themselves. There are great opportunities, and especially for job creation in the SMME space. Yes.
Thank you very much. That was the Minister of Tourism, Patricia de Lille. With that, take over Samkelo.
Indeed, Lulama, the ministers are coming in. The Minister of Monitoring and Evaluation, just the essence of evaluation. How have you evaluated the state in the past tenure of this sixth administration?
We have checked if all the ADPs that have been put in place, that were adopted, have at least been able to put systems in place, even if they don't finish whatever it is that they're supposed to do, because some of them are long-term and some of them are short-term. And we have also been able to evaluate and assess some that the past 5 years so have actually
Do you think about
so we have been able to assess that, and where we are, we do believe that we have done well.
When you look at some of the commitments that have been made, the new smart city, three new smart cities, one in Tshwane, one in Lanseria, and the one in KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape. How far are plans afoot for those particular areas?
We know the one in Lanseria, that work has already started. We have already appointed contractors. We have also appointed planners that would then now assist us to be able to, of course, with the issue of municipalities being under coalition government, it become a little bit difficult for us to have all 3 tiers of government working together to expedite that which has been said it should be done.
Thank you very much, Minister. Just to bring in the Deputy Minister of Telecommunications in the country. Deputy Minister, the spectrum, how far are you in the releasing of the spectrum?
Samkelo, we've released the spectrum. As you know, that the regulator, ICASA, 2 years ago in March, finalized the release of the auction through the spectrum. So the spectrum has been released. We have cleared the airways, so we have made it available by July of last year. So the telecommunications company, which made a bid for the spectrum, are in full control of the spectrum now. What we are busy now as the department, we have finalized, we have taken through cabinet the next generation spectrum policy. The minister is going to be gazetting very soon.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister. Also, on the issues pertaining to the spectrum from the Deputy Minister, we are also just going to try and grab the Minister of Water and
I think that is John Steenhuisen of the Democratic Alliance.
Minister, just the issue of water, how far are you with resolving the issues of water provision in the country, and also just the crisis at Rand Water? An official was assassinated last week. Your response?
Well, I don't want to be general and say provision of water in the country. I want to say that where we have to provide water, we're making all the efforts to make sure that everybody does have access to water, and it is increasing, and the developments are really positive. I'm talking about, in the main, the projects that President will talk about here that are tangible in terms of storage of water throughout the country. He will talk to a number of key projects that are underway, that are about to start. He will talk about key schemes that will really make a difference on the ground from where we started up to now. So from where we are, if had it not been for the reasons that not everybody has water right now, I would have said, with the work that we're doing, we are very happy. And prospects are great that people will soon see the difference. But in Rand Water, the Rand Water incident is an ugly incident. And any other incident that has taken place similar to that one, they are all ugly. They need to be stopped, and we are relying and working hard with the police to make sure that those who perpetrate this are brought to book, so that there's a consequence for everyone who undertakes this job, these things, together with those who cook them behind the scenes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Senzo Mkhulu. Over to you, my colleague Lula Mamata, who is with the leader of the official opposition, Mr. John Steenhuisen.
Thank you, Samkele. I am joined by the DA leader, John Steenhuisen. I won't be long with him because the bells are ringing, an indication that they need to be inside. But John, I heard you saying that the real State of the Nation address will be after today.
Yeah, this is a play State of the Nation address. It's not going to be realistic. We're going to need lots of populist promises like we've heard over the last 5 years. The reality is, with a 6% budget deficit and all of the broken promises of the last 5 years, nobody believes that. The bells are ringing, and they're ringing for Cyril Ramaphosa. This will be the last State of the Nation address by an ANC president with their own majority. And I think that the real State of the Nation address will be in a couple of weeks' time after the election, where the real vision about how we're going to rebuild and rescue South Africa is going to be set out.
What must he be saying tonight to give hope or to inspire confidence to the public
I think that the president's got a credibility problem. I think that, he's promised us jobs, they haven't materialized. Unemployment is worse. He promised us to fight crime. Crime has gone up. Gender-based violence has gone up. He's promised us to fix load shedding for the last 5 years. Load shedding is worse than it is now. He promised to fight corruption. Corruption is now worse than it was under Jacob Zuma. This is a president who's no longer believable. So whatever he says tonight, I think is going to be like water off a duck's back, frankly. I think everyone's ready for the election because they know that the election is going to bring the real change that South Africa needs.
How do you think then things are going to be done going forward when that real State of the Nation address is being done? What issues and how are these issues, the challenges that the country is facing now, are going to be addressed?
Well, I unveiled my blueprint to rescue South Africa in the course of the last week. It sets out very clearly how we would fix load shedding, how we would get Parliament working again, how we would make sure we can get people into work, how we would protect social grants by ensuring financial security, and how we would fight corruption by reintroducing the scorpions. Those are the things that I'm looking forward to being delivered after this election as part of a new government in South Africa.
Let's talk after his speech.
Thank you so much, Lou. Cheers.
That was the DA leader, John Steenhuisen, as all the MPs now and invited guests are expected to be inside the City Hall, sitting in the public gallery for the visit the guests, and the MPs will be taking their seats and wait for President Cyril Ramaphosa to address the nation at 7 o'clock.
I mean, for me, it's a matter of empowering yourself. You could be at a position where you cannot afford to go and study at a much more professional space.
Yes, financial resources are a serious issue in South Africa.
Then you need to then find ways of how you can get yourself into the space. There's a lot of fashion designers that have studied, that have equipped themselves over the years, and they build businesses that are successful. Go and intern. Go and intern as a young person. Immediately when you graduate or you leave school, you don't go and start your own brand. That is one of the mistakes that some of us made, and it took us very long for our businesses to grow and to get to where they are. Go and intern, dedicate a good 3, 4, 5 years of your life
to working under someone so that you can pick up on certain traits of how to run a successful business. So instead of just focusing on, oh, I can make a pair of pants, I'm going to start a business, then you can look at other ways of how you can equip yourself and empower yourself.
However, situations aren't different. I mean, BG was saying that she started her business at a very young age, and BG's sitting with us right now. She is policing the members of parliament and the esteemed guests at the SONA 2024. So, BG, does it only go in one way? I mean, does one have to go and intern, or can you really just throw your head in the fire and see how things go?
You can do it that way, but the thing is, that's also the hard slog. So at the end of the day, personally, I can speak from my own experience, and my own experience basically says if I took myself back to that age, I would have put myself 100% into more environments where I could learn more. And you don't necessarily need to learn in a fashion school. Obviously, that's a bonus. Anybody that has the ability or has the resources or the opportunity to be able to study in a formal school, 100%. That is 100% support that or second that. But in a situation, for example, where you're financially challenged, you know, you can always, I think if you have the will to learn and the drive to learn, you can learn from your granny, you can learn from your cousin, you can learn from your sister, you know, skills that they may have learned or, you know, passed down, and not have the attitude of, okay, well, that's beneath me, and if I don't learn from a formal school, your knowledge and your skills don't mean anything.
Now that you mentioned that, I remember Hungwe also said that she learned from her mother. Yeah. That she got into fashion, the passion for fashion was from mom. Yeah. Now, in that sense, so are you agreeing with BG that?
I think, you know, if, you know, each and every one of us, we've got a purpose in life. And if you've got a calling for a particular, you know, field that needs to be of service, then you will really do well. But the main thing is to love what you do and to be passionate and to, I believe in always keep on, you have to keep on learning, you know, empowering yourself. Be it as there are various ways now to empower yourself academically and get the know-how of that industry.
Perseverance, yes. Drive, and the know-how.
Willing to learn.
Thank you so much, guys. Well, this brings us to the end of our coverage on the fashion police. We've seen a lot of garments. We've seen a lot of fashion ills, I'll call them. We've had some mean comments from Otis here. However, we did ask that they be honest. Hopefully next year at the SONA 2025, there will be better outfits. And we'd like to thank you, proudly South Africa, for being here with us and partnering with South Africa. Next is the ceremonial part of the SONA, where the President will be delivering the State of the Nation address. Stay tuned and let's hear what the President has to say. Thank you so much.
Construct that people-centered society of freedom
in such a manner that it guarantees the political liberties
love that we're trying to find these moments of levity in what we're discussing, but it is bleak, Sakina.
It is.
When you hear what our analysts are saying, when you hear how people are living and the challenges that they're going through, just with putting bread on the table, forget about sending their kids to school. You know, if you look at the malnourishment statistics in South Africa, 1 in 4 children is stunted and malnourished, 27%, in fact more than one child in the South African reality is struggling for food. Families really have it hard out there. Every quarter, the Pietermaritzburg Project puts out its statistics on the average food basket, and every month that is going up. Families are really, really struggling, and so this SONA really has to provide a beacon of hope for South Africans, but it can't be empty calories. It's got to be something meaty that the president is saying, as our analysts are saying, detail-oriented, that says how things are going to change month 1, month 2, month 2. But have you ever experienced something like that?
And I think we also need to be realistic. We need to temper our expectations, because we've been hearing the same story for how many SONAs? I mean, we come here year after year after year. When last did you hear a good story about economic growth in South Africa? When last did you hear a real good story about a dent in the unemployment statistics?
The quickest way to increase the length of your manhood down there and make it stronger and harder is to go to your kitchen and follow this 10-second African method discovered by the University of Michigan, which has helped 100,000 men increase their
Esortando music in South Africa. that is the Vice President, Paul Mashadi, right there. Paul Mashadi.
Testing. As the army, and they are welcoming the deputy as well as the president when they are entering into the.
Just curious.
And there's also going to be. They are eminent persons, guests of parliament that are chosen by the provinces to come and represent the provinces as eminent persons from various provinces, all 9 provinces across the country. I was just saying...
so it has something to do with the equalizers.
We're also going to have a 21 gun salute. What does it signify, and in what kind of events do we have the gun salute?
So the gun salute is part of the artillery. They make use of the 24-pounders cannons, which comes from a long way ago, I think 1842, they are called 24-pounders because the projectiles that they are using are 25 pounds. So that's why they are called. It's an 88 millimeter caliber that they are using. But in today's celebration, it will be only blanks. So the 21 gun salute is specifically only for the president.
Okay.
So if it's the Minister of Defence, for instance, it will be 19, and Chief SANDF, for instance, will be 17 guns salutes. But for the President, it's specifically 21. So you can ask yourself, where do you get the 21? It's easier when the ships came in. They usually at 7 cannons on the ship, and there was 3 what's the words, layers.
Also the Minister of Defense is also on the inside. I mean in the inside.
Shoot their guns to say they are empty now and they come in peace. And then the crew on the land, they will reply on that salute, and they will also then shoot 21 guns back. And that's where that is a international tradition.
So it's just to say we are not here to fight, come in peace, and then the army on the other side would also receive them to say we are also not fighting, you are welcome.
Yes, all the guns are empty then.
Okay, so in this context, is to say, what does it mean when it's when the salute is done in an event like this one?
So the salute is done for the president as a welcoming for him, and then also because it's like a tradition that the president qualifies for a 21 gun salute.
So it must take a very time for the members of the SANDF to train for all these things? How difficult is the process to rehearse and train for events such as this?
Yeah, we are kind of trained every day. So it's just a question of going through the steps again and do the repetition of that. So for this parade, for instance, we started on Sunday and we had some dry runs at Ikapa, and then the last 2 days we were in the city and doing the practice-ins at evenings.
And who qualifies for training within the army to be part of this?
Well, there's a MSDS system where people can apply for joining the army. So that is,
Okay. So now what we see on screen are the presiding officers of Parliament, led by the Secretary to Parliament to the far right, and then you have the Speaker over there of the National Assembly, also the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Mr. Amos Masondo, being received by the Navy Band, and they are waiting to receive the President of the Republic of South Africa, who will be addressing the nation in just about 18.
PMD offers comprehensive car insurance that you can trust from as little as 620 Rand per month.
I've been with PMD for...
He goes in to address. He will be received, and then he will be singing. There will be a singing of the national anthem and the 21 guns, and then he will be inside. I was still asking Colonel, who qualifies for training to be part of all of this?
The training, we've got a military system that people outside can apply, people between the age of 18 and 21. And then if they are selected, they go through a selection, and then when they are selected, they will be trained like basic training, and they will do it in the different services, the Army or the Navy or Air Force or SAMS, and then you qualify further up with ranks as you do different courses.
Okay. So the flight past, which unit or part of the army is doing the flight past?
The Griffins are coming from Hoedspruit. There will be 3 of them. So they had a practice in yesterday.
So is it usually the same unit, or is it different units here, this year, the following year, another unit, or is it the same people throughout?
Usually with the Air Force, they are based according to their base. So
president's motorcade, and it's moving in towards the entrance where the president will be received by the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces. We are moving swiftly and closer to time. It's just about 12 minutes old before 7 o'clock. And there you see on screen the President of the Republic of South Africa and the First Lady being ushered in to be received by the presiding officers of Parliament. And you can see the junior guard on the side, the President stepping out to greet the junior guard.
So now the National Ceremonial Guard, they will come to attention as the President is also the Commander-in-Chief of the National Defence Force. So a way of showing him respect, they will then come to attention and they will then wait for the salute.
So from here, how long will it take before they get to the salute? What can we expect?
Well, if the President moves to the podium area, they will, when he's ready and standing there, they will give the orders of a salute.
At the moment, the President is greeting the eminent persons. These are special guests, special invitees from each and every province in this country, selected by provinces to be part of the State of the Nation Address of 2024.
Afforded.
That I spoke about are these two Air Force to us, so they will receive the President, and then they will make a bow turn, and the President will follow them.
So on screen is the First Lady being to a place, and you can see now at the back
the countries which are Commonwealth,
like South Africa.
Yeah, because we're part of that. So we apply this 21 gun salute. It differs then from other countries. But those who are coming from that, they observe this 21 gun salute. For the head of states, the head of governments, and so on.
So, Sakina, you're not going to borrow Brigadier General's outfit or his uniform just so that we can feel what it feels like.
We'll just flank him. We'll just flank him. We'll just go stand there, flank him so we can take all of that in and pretend it's for us.
Not today, though. Not today.
Not today. I think what's so instructive about this moment is how it all plays into the concept of democracy, educating the public about all of the things that are happening in spaces where the majority of South Africans won't have this access, this opportunity to sit right here or to be able to go into the chamber. But through this broadcast, through the commentary that you're sharing with us, the peer review, it's this deeper understanding of how all of these things work together.
Right. The President is to the podium, and we are going to pause so that you can take this in, of course, flanked there, as we said, by the National Assembly Speaker and the Chairperson of the Council of Provinces.
that 21-gun salute palpable here in our studio. We could feel every movement. And what happens next is the president's preparing to enter the chamber, and there's a protocol that applies. Members of both houses must be seated before that procession enters. The presiding officers and the president enter the chamber in procession, and they'll be preceded by the sergeant at arms and the usher of the black rod, and then followed by the secretary to parliament. We talked about the Mbongi, who will also sing praises to the president, narrating the president's personal history, the president's clan and family lineage, and this is traditional in South Africa, and this will also coincide with the entry of the president into the chamber. So that's also an exciting hallmark, Sakina.
And she, of course, is from Mpumalanga, my home province. But let's listen in to those proceedings inside the chamber.
Assembly, Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, President of the Republic of South Africa.
One day, kumland beningizimu Afrika nga-1994 lapho khona bantu baseningizimu Afrika bayovota kwekuqala washo babe Solomon Kalush Mahlangu wathi umzabalazo usaqhubeka ingabone mzabalazo webuntu sisawenda ngaphansi kwahulumende wethu sikubonile sifika sifo se-COVID-19 yebo samelana nasihlasela umhlaba wonke saphinde sayibona iningizimu Afrika ilula sandla ilulela iPalestine ingani singema Afrika sikholelwa kwekuthi umuntu ngumuntu ngebantu tandla diyagezana ngaphansi kwahulumende wethu sibonile ukuthi emidlalo banjalo bayaphumelela ake ngithathe nginibuyisele emuva ngeminyaka wa-2023 lapho khona sibathiwa besifazane bangena ngenyende ephalamende halala hulumende wethu ake ngiphindze nginatise ngetemidlalo ingani siyibonile ibanyana yasebenza ngekuthi ikhandla saphinde sayibona emabhokobhoko wende kumlando beningizimu Afrika lapho khona indebe ye-Rugby World Cup yabuya kwesine esiveni sakithi kanti singakhohlwa nimafana bafana basebenze ngekuthi ikhandla bafikile kuma-semi-finals ngaphansi kwahulumende wethu sibonile ukuthi bantu baseningizimu Afrika banawo emakhono ngingayikhohlwa njani indzaba yema-Grammy Awards ngoba sibabonile baqulu baseningizimu Afrika bavela baphakamisa umjeko wethu singema-Afrika kwathi made kwaba nemculi loletha indondo ekhathi ekhaya halala ma-Afrika konke lokhu kuyenteka ngaphansi kwesandla simengameli wethu mengameli Cyril Ramaphosa. Ngivumeleni ngithi baholi bethu kusukela phasi kwamasipala yofika kumengameli bethu sithi bayekeleni banibeke emabala ngoba ingwe idla ngemabala siyanqoba lo mnyaka batavuma bayekeleni lo nyaka halala sona 2024 halala South Africa halala mengameli Cyril Ramaphosa halala lonyaka masingo ahe matamela ahe Songondlo ngingumthenzelo ohlaba usamila imfuthane lebulala ngaphandle kwesikhathi imamba lehlatanele ngabona bulawe loshikitela ngetinyawo nejahembi ngoba kukuthi emuva ngiwasempumalanga ngingiphumalanga sikothe sithuthelane ngebuhle ngaphansi kwamake Premier Referendum ngiwasenzaweni yasenkomazi ingani ngaphansi kwamengameli wesineke mengameli Cyril Ramaphosa ngingosatane enziwe ngibide ngisabele ngisonzele
Please be seated.
Joint sitting of the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces in terms of Section 842D of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, read with Joint Rule 13(1)A to deliver his State of the Nation address to Parliament. Honorable members, no member may interrupt the President whilst delivering the State of the Nation address. In terms of Joint Rule 57, a point of order must be confined only to a matter of breach of these joint rules or parliamentary procedure or practice or a matter relating to unparliamentary conduct and must be raised immediately when the alleged breach occurs. The member raising the point of order must refer to a rule or standing order, or at the least the principle or subject matter upon which the point of order is being based. A member wishing to raise a question of privilege must report it to the Speaker or Chairperson without delay in accordance with Joint Rule 58. If the alleged breach of privilege is, in the opinion of the Speaker or the Chairperson, adequately substantiated and may affect a joint sitting of the House on the day or in the immediate future, the Speaker or the Chairperson may, in due regard to the provisions of the Act, rule on the matter and announce it in the joint sitting. If the alleged breach of privilege does not directly affect the joint sitting of the Houses in the immediate future, the Speaker or the Chairperson may refer the matter to the relevant committee of the House to which affected member belongs. Rule 38 stipulates that whenever the presiding officer addresses members during a joint sitting, any member then speaking or seeking to speak must resume his or her seat, and the presiding officer must be heard without interruption. Rule 52 provides that no member shall use unparliamentary, offensive, abusive, insulting, disrespectful, unbecoming language or sounds, or offensive or threatening gestures. Rule 57 provides that rulings by presiding officers are final and binding and may not be challenged or questioned in the House. In terms of Joint Rule 8, a member who willfully fails or refuses to obey any joint rule or order or resolution may be found guilty of contempt of Parliament. As members are aware, the rules are there to protect the dignity and decorum of the House and to ensure that business before the Houses of Parliament is conducted in an orderly manner. Rule 41 states that if the presiding officer is of the opinion that a member is deliberately contravening a provision of these rules, or that a member is disregarding the authority of the chair, or that of a member's conduct is grossly disorderly, the presiding officer may order the member to leave the chamber immediately for the remainder of the sitting. I now call the Honorable President to address the joint sitting.
Speaker of the National Assembly, Ms. Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Mr. Amos Masondo, Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, Mr. Paul Mashatile, and Mrs. Mashatile, former President Thabo Mbeki, former Deputy President Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka, former Speaker of the National Assembly, Ms. Baleka Mbete, Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, Deputy Chief Justice Ms. Mandisa Maya, various justices who are here present, Mayor of Cape Town, Councillor Gordon Hill-Lewis, Dean of the Diplomatic Corps and Regional Deans, the heads of institutions supporting our democracy, eminent persons representing our 9 provinces who I just greeted a few minutes ago, members of parliament, and fellow South Africans. As we were preparing this State of the Nation address, we were deeply saddened to hear of the tragic passing of Dr. Hage Geingob, the President of the Republic of Namibia. President Geingob was a dear friend to me and to the people of South Africa, and a comrade in arms in the struggle for our freedom. He was a champion of African peace, unity, progress, and development. May I ask that we observe a moment of silence in his honor as we remember him by rising. Thank you. This State of the Nation address takes place in the 30th year of our democracy. On the 27th of April, 1994, millions of Africans cast their ballot in a democratic election, many for the very first time in their lives. That momentous day was the culmination of centuries of struggle, the struggle to liberate our people from suffering, from dispossession, oppression, exploitation, and poverty and inequality. As we stood in the long, winding queues to vote, we turned to one another and spoke of our joy, and sometimes with tears running down our cheeks. We embraced friends and strangers alike, encouraged by a sense of a common future that we were about to determine for our country with our votes. We placed into those ballot boxes not just a vote, but a dream of the country we wanted to build. It was the dream of a South Africa that, in every sense, belongs to all who live in it, united in our diversity. The world watched as Nelson Mandela, the father of our nation, cast his vote in Inanda in KwaZulu-Natal. the land of Ushaga, a hero whose name echoes across the ages, the birthplace of John Langalibalele Dube, the first president of the African National Congress. An organization which united the African people and the home of Chief Albert Luthuli, the first African Nobel Peace Laureate. In many ways, his voting in Inanda at the place where John Langalibalele Dube is buried was symbolic, because through casting his vote there, he was reporting back to the first president of the ANC on how far the struggle had been prosecuted. After casting his ballot, Madiba said, "This is the beginning of a new era. We have moved from an era of pessimism, division, limited opportunities, turmoil, and conflict. We are starting a new era of hope, reconciliation, and nation building. It is this dream of a free and united people that is woven into our democratic constitution. It is this constitution that has guided our collective efforts over the last 3 decades to fundamentally change our country for the better. And it must stand at the center of the work that we do now to build a better life for all our people. Over the last 3 decades, we have been on a journey striving together to achieve a new society, a national democratic society. We have cast off the tyranny of apartheid and built a democratic state based on the will of the people. We have established strong institutions to protect the fundamental freedoms and human rights of all our people. We have transformed the lives of millions of South Africans, providing the necessities of life and creating opportunities that never existed for them before. We have enabled a diverse economy whose minerals, whose agricultural products, and manufactured goods are exported and reach every corner of the world while creating jobs in our own country. As a country, we have returned to the community of nations, extending a hand of peace and friendship to all countries and all peoples. Just as we cannot deny the progress South Africans have made over the last 30 years, nor should we diminish the severe challenges that we continue to face as a people. We have endured times of great difficulty when the strength of our constitutional democracy has been severely tested. There have been times when events beyond our borders have held back our progress. The global financial crisis of 2007 and 2008 brought to an end a decade of strong growth and faster job creation. More recently, the Russia-Ukraine conflict has contributed to rising prices of fuel, food, and other commodities across the world, and has, as a result, made life more difficult for all South Africans. There have also been times when events at home have shaken the foundations of our constitutional democracy. Perhaps the greatest damage was caused during the era of state capture. For a decade, individuals at the highest levels of the state conspired with private individuals to take over and repurpose state-owned enterprises, law enforcement agencies, and other public institutions. In some cases, these activities were enabled by local and multinational companies. Billions of rands that were meant to meet the needs of ordinary South Africans were stolen. Confidence in our country was badly eroded. Public institutions were severely weakened. The effects of state capture continue to be felt across confidence society in our country. The shortage of was badly eroded. Locomotives to crumbling public services, from poor performance of our power stations to failed development projects in a number of places. But South Africans, including many honest and dedicated public servants, fought back and worked together to defeat state capture. Even then, attempts to thwart the country's recovery continued. We recall with great anguish the events of July 2020. Recall with great anguish when individuals, loyal to their own interests, sought to provoke a popular insurrection, leading to a tragic loss of life and widespread destruction. Again, they were unsuccessful. And its promise of a better life for all. It was the same determination that enabled the country to endure the devastation. It was the same determination that enabled the country to endure the devastation of COVID-19. More than 100 global pandemics in over a century. Their lives to the disease. More than 100,000 South Africans people lost their jobs, lost their lives to the disease. Yet it would have been more than 2 million if people lost their jobs. Together as South Africans. Yet it would have been far worse the spread of the virus if we had not acted to support our health workers to protect the most vulnerable of the virus and to roll out support our health workers to protect the most vulnerable and to roll out an unprecedented vaccination program. We were able to unite society around a common effort to save lives and livelihoods. I want to pay tribute to many thousands of South Africans who made financial contributions to the Solidarity Fund, to the workers who produced medical supplies, and to the nurses, the doctors, and other health workers, to our soldiers and police who also risked their lives to care for those who were ill. Another major challenge we had to address during this period is gender-based violence and femicide, which we characterized as the second pandemic. As the government, we have introduced laws and directed more resources to prosecuting perpetrators, providing better support to survivors, and promoting women's empowerment at an economic level. As a society, we must intensify our collective efforts to bring together various efforts that are going to bring gender-based violence and femicide to an end. In recent years, the country has had to confront the effects of climate change. We have had devastating wildfires here in the Western Cape, destructive floods in KwaZulu-Natal, unbearable heat waves in the Northern Cape, persistent drought in the Eastern Cape, and intense storms in Gauteng and Northwest. Much of the task of this administration was to get our country through these challenges and to work to regain our way. While each of these events has left its mark, our country has weathered every storm and every challenge that we confronted. Yes, we have the scars to show, but in every case, South Africans have been resolute. We have not only persevered, but we have come back stronger and more determined from all these calamities that befell our country. All these efforts have demonstrated how South Africans value their freedom, a freedom that was won after decades of struggle. The story of the first 30 years of our democracy can best be told through a number of initiatives that have been embarked upon in the 30 years. But I think that the story can best be told through the life of a child who was born at the dawn of our democracy called Tintswalo. Tintswalo, democracy's child, grew up in a society that was worlds apart from the South Africa of her parents, South Africa of her grandparents and great-grandparents. Loko Tintswalo afika ka South Africa, ukume kuri swilo swo tala a swa ha fani na swilo swa khale. Ukume kuri swilo leswi endlaku hulumeni wa hina iswona swi nga kota ku ri swi yisa vutomi bya yena phambili. She grew up in a society governed by a constitution rooted in equality, the rule of law, and affirmation of the inherent dignity of every citizen. Tintswalo and many others born at the same time as her were beneficiaries of the first policies of the democratic state to provide free health care for pregnant women and children under the age of 6. Tintswalo's formative years were spent in a house provided by the state, one of millions of houses built to shelter the poor. O ile a re ha tswalwa a hwetša hore dintlo di agiwa ke mmuso o motjha wa South Africa. Ba bang ba ileng ba tswala pele ga ena ba ne ba golela dintlong tsa maratharata, empa yena o ile a re ha tswalwa a hwetša gore mmuso o wa South Africa o agela batho dintlo tse dintšintši. Tintswalo grew up in a household provided with basic water and electricity, in a house where her parents were likely to have lived without electricity before 1994. Ngo-1994, abantu abaningi kulelizwe lakithi bebengenawo ugesi, kodwa uTintswalo uthe makezalwa wathola ukuthi ugesi ukhona ufakwe uhulumeni. Tinswalo was enrolled in a school in which her parents did not have to pay school fees. And each school day, she received nutritious meals as part of a program the program that today supports 9 million learners from poor families. Hoyu Tinswalo, duva achia chikoloni, oswika chikoloni, ngamacheloni, kazungwe zikolo, uwana na breakfast, kazungwe chikolo, uwana ziliwaza masiyara. Hezi zoba zisaitei, chipingani chakali, zoba zisiho, namusi ziyoitea nga uri unamubuso muswa wa Afrika Chipembe uneva kweisa zitupanda. The democratic state provided a child support grant to meet Tinswalo's basic needs. This grant, together with other forms of social assistance, continues to be a lifeline for more than 26 million South Africans every month. With this support, Tinswalo, democracy's child, was able to complete high school. Through the assistance of the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, Tinswalo attended one of our TVET colleges and obtained a qualification. When Tinswalo entered the world of work, she was able to progress and thrive with the support of the state's employment equity and black economic empowerment policies. With the income she earned, she was able to save. She was also able to support her parents. She was able to start a family, to move into a better house, and to live a better life. This is the story of millions of people who have been born since the dawn of democracy. Whether people like it or not, this is the reality of many people in our country. But truth be told, it is only part of the story. For despite the remarkable achievements of the last 30 years, many of democracy's children still face great challenges. Millions of young people aged 15 to 24 years are currently not in employment, education, or training. There are many who have a matric, a diploma, or a degree who are not able to find a job or do not have the means to even start a business. Now, this is a trend that prevails in many countries around the world. While economic growth is essential to reduce unemployment, we cannot wait to provide the work that many of democracy's children need. As government, we have taken steps to address the youth unemployment challenge. I had the privilege yesterday to be in the presence of almost 1,000 young people. 1,000 young people who were bearing testimony to how through the various initiatives that government has put in place, that the private sector has also put in place, have been able to see progress in their own lives. 3 years ago, building on the experience and success of the expanded public works program, we launched the Presidential Employment Stimulus. Through this program, we've been able to create more than 1.7 million work and livelihood opportunities. Through the stimulus, we have placed more than 1 million young people as school assistants in 23,000 schools. If you go around our country and you talk to school principals, you talk to school teachers, they will tell you how beneficial this program has been in assisting them in their schools, but more importantly, how beneficial this program has been to these young people who are being introduced to the world of work. This has provided them with valuable work experience while improving learning outcomes. Through the Presidential Youth Employment Intervention, we have established what we call SA Youth Mobi as a zero-rated platform for unemployed young people to access opportunities for learning and earning. Over 4.3 million people, young people for that matter, are now engaged on the network, and 1.6 million have so far secured opportunities. We have, working together with the National Youth Development Agency, the NYDA, set up a number of initiatives to provide opportunities for young people, including the National Youth Service and the Youth Employment Service, where we are cooperating and working with the private sector. A number of companies in our country have signed up to this, as they have seen the need to join in the task of creating job opportunities for young people. These programs matter because work matters to people. The NYDA has played a key role in assisting a number of young people to start their own businesses. Having a job does not only provide an income, it is fundamental to people's sense of self-worth, of dignity, of hope, purpose, and inclusion. From the depths of deprivation and inequality, we have worked over 30 years to ensure that all South Africans have an equal chance to prosper. And we have sought to live up to leaving no one behind. It is not enough to recognize the injustices of the past. We need to correct them. We have introduced laws and undertaken programs to enable Black South Africans who were previously disadvantaged and prevented from getting into many opportunities. We've also enabled women to advance in the workplace, to become owners and managers, to acquire land and to build up assets, even as, because they are women, were prevented by laws of the past from doing so. The proportion of jobs in executive management held by Black people have increased exponentially, almost fivefold between 1996 and 2016. One of the overriding challenges this administration had to deal with when it took office was state capture and corruption. Our first priority was to put a decisive stop to state capture, to dismantle the criminal networks within the state and to ensure and transparent process. The credibility and efficiency of a number of institutions, like the South African Revenue Service, have been restored and their performance has improved. Some may not like this, but that is the reality of what has happened. We set up the Investigating Directorate as a specialized and multidisciplinary unit within the National Prosecuting Authority to investigate corruption and other serious crimes. Great progress has been made in bringing those responsible for all these acts of malfeasance to justice. More than 200 accused persons are being prosecuted as we speak. More are under investigation. Stolen funds are being recovered. Freezing orders. I see you love this. Freezing orders of 14 billion rand have been granted to the NPA's Asset Forfeiture Unit for state capture-related cases, and around 8.6 billion rand in corrupt proceeds have been returned to the state. A restored and revitalized SARS has collected 4.8 billion in unpaid taxes as a result of evidence presented to the State Capture Commission, while the Special Investigating Unit has instituted civil litigation to the value of 64 billion rand. We have taken steps, including through new legislation, to strengthen our ability to prevent fraud and secure our removal from the grey list of the Financial Action Task Force. With the assistance of business, we have set up a digital forensic capability to support the NPA, especially its Investigating Directorate, which in due course will be expanded to support law enforcement more broadly. Legislation is currently before Parliament to establish the Investigating Directorate as a permanent entity with full investigating powers. But there is much more work to be done to eradicate corruption completely. Based on the recommendations of the National Anti-Corruption Advisory Council, we are determined to introduce further measures to strengthen our anti-corruption agencies, to protect whistleblowers, to regulate lobbying and prevent the undue influence of public representatives in procurement. We will not stop until every person responsible is held to account. We will not stop. We will not stop until all money stolen has been recovered. And yes, we will not stop until even those corporations, blue chip corporations that were involved in state capture are made to be accountable. The real tragedy of state capture was that it diverted attention and resources away from what government should have been doing, which is to grow our economy and create jobs. Over the past 5 years, we have worked earnestly to revive our economy from a decade of stagnation and to protect it from both domestic and global shocks. We have made progress in a number of ways. Our economy today is 3 times larger than what it was 30 years ago. The number of South Africans who are in employment has increased from 8 million in 1994 to 16.7 million today. Over the last 2 years, the number of jobs being created has been increasing every quarter, and we now have more people in employment than before the pandemic. Yet, our unemployment rate is the highest it has ever been. Even as employment is growing, more people are entering the job market each year than jobs are being created. We have laid a foundation for growth through far-reaching economic reforms that we have embarked upon, an ambitious investment drive, and an infrastructure program that is starting to yield results. Companies continue to invest. Thousands of hectares of farmland are being planted. New factories are being opened, and production is being expanded. We are on track to resolve the most important constraints on economic growth by stabilizing our energy supply and fixing our logistics system. As these obstacles are removed, the true potential of our economy will be unleashed. We set out a clear plan to end load shedding, which we have been implementing with a single-minded focus through the National Energy Crisis Committee. We have delivered on our commitments to bring substantial new power through private investment on the grid, which is already helping to reduce load shedding. Last year, we implemented a major debt relief package, which will enable Eskom to make investments in maintenance and transmission infrastructure and ensure its sustainability going forward. Since we revived our renewable energy program 5 years ago, we have connected more than 2,500 megawatts of solar and wind power to the grid, with 3 times this amount already in procurement or construction. Through tax incentives and financial support, we have more than doubled the amount of rooftop solar capacity installed across the country in just the past year. We have implemented sweeping regulatory reforms to enable private investment in electricity generation, with more than 120 new private energy projects that are now in development. These are phenomenal developments that are driving the restructuring of our electricity sector in line with many other economies have done to increase competitiveness and to bring down their energy prices. Through all these actions, we are confident that the worst is behind us and the end of load shedding is finally within reach. But we are not stopping there. To ensure that we never face a similar crisis ever again, We are reforming our energy system to make it more competitive, more sustainable, and reliable into the future. We are going to build more than 14,000 kilometers of new transmission lines to accommodate renewable energy over the coming years. To fast-track this process, we will enable investment in transmission infrastructure through a variety of innovative investment models. Re tla ya mo bao ba nang le tjhelete. Re ba bitse gore ba tle ba tlo sebetsana le rona ka go kenya ditjhelete tsa bona mo transmission ya motlakase. Go etsetsa gore transmission ya rona e tie. Last year we tabled the Electricity Regulation Amendment Bill to support the restructuring of ESCOM and establish a competitive electricity market. As we undertake these reforms, we are positioning our economy for the future growth in a world shaped by climate change and a revolution in green technologies. In the last 3 years, our country has seen the increase in extreme weather events, often with disastrous consequences. This is why we are implementing a just energy transition, not only to reduce carbon emissions and fight climate change, but to create growth and jobs for our people in the future. We will undertake this transition at a pace, at a scale, and at a cost that our country can afford, and in a manner that ensures energy security. So we will not be compelled to embark on processes that are going to disadvantage our country in this regard. With our abundance of solar, wind, and mineral resources, we are going to create thousands of jobs in renewable energy, in green hydrogen, green steel, electric vehicles, and other green products. The Northern Cape, with its optimal solar conditions, one of the very best in the world conditions, has already attracted billions of rands in investment. We are going to set up a special economic zone in the Boegoebaai port to drive investment in green energy. There's a great deal of interest already from the private sector, with companies such as Sasol and many others who are ready to participate in the boom that will be generated through our green hydrogen energy projects. We have decided to support electric vehicle manufacturing in our country to grow our automotive sector, which provides good jobs to thousands of workers. And in this regard, we are already at an advanced stage of cooperating with our neighbors, with countries such as the DRC, which is well endowed with critical minerals, with countries such as Botswana, which is already involved in parts of the value chain of automotive manufacturing. With all these countries, we are going to be able to form an incredibly powerful ecosystem that is going to enable all of us to benefit from the green energy revolution. We have decided to give special focus to regions such as Mpumalanga to enable the creation of new industries, new economic opportunities, and sustainable jobs. And in the past year, we have increased the financing pledges for our Just Energy Transition Investment Plan from around 170 billion rand to to almost 240 billion rand. Now, to address the persistent effects of global warming, which manifests itself through persistent floods, fires, and droughts, we have decided to establish a climate change response fund. This will bring together all spheres of government and the private sector in a collaborative effort to build our resilience and respond to the impacts of climate change. Now, this decision was inspired by the persistent calamities that we are subjected to. Almost every year, KwaZulu-Natal experiences massive floods that destroy our infrastructure. Yes, the Western Cape is suffering from wildfires that continue to destroy quite a number of assets in our country. And indeed, many other provinces are actually suffering from the effects of climate change. So this fund, which we hope will gain the attraction of all, like the fund we set up during COVID, will support various areas that suffer from climate change to deal with severe inefficiencies in our freight logistics. We are taking action to improve our ports and rail network and restore them to world-class standards. We have set out a clear roadmap to stabilize the performance of Transnet and reform our logistics system. Working closely with business and labor, we have established dedicated teams to turn around 5 strategic corridors that transport our goods for export purposes. The number of ships waiting to berth at the Port of Durban, which has experienced severe congestion in recent months, has reduced from more than 60 ships in mid-November to just 12 ships at the end of January. Now, that represents progress. Transnet has appointed an international terminal operator to help expand and improve its largest terminal at the Port of Durban. And we are overhauling the freight rail system by allowing private rail operators to access the rail network. With the current conflict in the Middle East affecting shipping traffic through the Suez Canal, South Africa is well positioned to offer bunkering services for ships that will be rerouted via our shores. We completed, as we all know, the auction of broadband spectrum after more than a decade of delays, resulting in new investment, lower data costs, and improved network reach and quality. Now, these reforms have a profound impact in a society in which access to the internet has risen dramatically over the last decade. Less than half of all households had internet access in 2011, compared to 79% of households in 2022, meaning that South Africans more and more are using the internet. Some use it to trade, some use it to improve their livelihoods, some use it to learn, but the internet is being spread more and more, even in our rural areas. Just this week, we published new regulations to reform our visa system, which will make it easier to attract the skills that our economy needs and create a dynamic ecosystem for innovation as well as entrepreneurship. We raised 1.5 trillion rand in new investment commitments through 5 South African investment conferences, of which over 500 billion has already flown into the economy. To support growth in the mining sector, we are moving ahead with the modernization of our mining rights licensing system and are launching an exploration fund to support emerging miners and exploit new mineral deposits. Through this, mining, which has been the bedrock on which the South African economy was built, will once again become a sunrise industry. Participation of previously disadvantaged black people is increasing. Black ownership now stands at approximately 39% when compared to just 2% in 2004. This is progress that is being made, allowing black people to participate in a key industry in our economy. Investment in infrastructure is gaining momentum. New and innovative funding mechanisms will be utilized to increase construction of infrastructure. The Minister of Finance announced this in his medium-term policy budget statement last year, where he said, we are now going to be able, yes, to fund infrastructure through utilization of innovative new methods. It could be build, operate, and transfer. It could be embarking on investment vehicles as well as investment ideas that will enable us to speed up the construction of infrastructure. The Department of Water and Sanitation aims to enhance water resource management by initiating infrastructure projects to secure water supply and diversifying water sources to reduce dependence on surface water. Water being such a major challenge in our country, this is actually answering to the need of our people just to have water. Vanhu vo tala la Afrika Dzonga va vulavula hi mati, va tshama va hi byela ku ri mati a va na wona, va lava ku ri hi endla ku ri mati a va kona. Bulk water projects are under construction across the country to improve water supply to millions of residents in villages, towns, and cities. The following water infrastructure projects are now in progress or have been completed. The Lesotho Highlands Water Project, which is going to invest up to 40 billion rand, is now in progress. Umzimvubu, that we've been talking about for years, has now commenced. Hazelmere Dam, Umkomazi Water Project, Clan William Dam, Tzanini Dam, Loscom, Madlakazi, pipeline from Jozini Dam, Giyani, pipeline from Nandoni Dam to Nsami Dam, Pilansbeck Water, Val Haramahara, and the pipeline from the Val River to Hotazel. Now, all these are projects that are underway or have been completed. In the Eastern Cape, the Msikaba and the Mtento bridges are beginning to rise over the landscape and will be among the highest in Africa once completed. So if you want to find the highest bridge in Africa, you will have to go to the Eastern Cape. The steel used Now, the steel used for part of the project is fabricated in Mpumalanga, and the iron ore comes from the Northern Cape. In the past 5 years, Sanral, which manages nearly 25,000 kilometers of road, has awarded more than 1,200 projects to the value of 120 billion rand, meaning that the focus on constructing our roads, repairing our roads, yes, even attending to our potholes is now underway. Yes, it is. Now, you talk to the Premier. You talk to the Premier of the Eastern Cape. He will tell you that many of the roads in the Eastern Cape are now being attended to. Similarly, when you talk to the Premier of the Northern Cape, he will tell you the same. Yes, in November last year, now listen to this one. In November last year, Cabinet approved a framework for high-speed rail, focusing initially on the Johannesburg to Durban corridor. As we grow the economy, we are making it more inclusive through redistribution. Around 25% of farmland in our country is now owned by Black South Africans. And this has been confirmed by an eminent agricultural economist, Wandile Sihlobo. This brings us closer to achieving our target of 30% by 2030. And he says to me, President, we will have exceeded this target by 2030 because a number of initiatives are now underway to ensure that Black South Africans have access to the ownership of land. In the last 5 years, we have supported around 1,000 Black industrialists with funding and other forms of support. These Black-owned firms employ more than 90,000 workers and contribute many billions of rands to our economy. Now, this is the revolution that is underway to bring more and more Black people into the real economy. At the same time, about 200,000 more workers obtained ownership of shares in the companies that they work for, bringing the total worker ownership in companies in the South African economy to well over 500,000 workers. We see this trend continuing to grow as more and more companies realize that it is beneficial to their own operations and their businesses that their workers should have a stake in the businesses that they work for. And we call upon the private sector to go ahead and increase the participation of their workers in the businesses that they work for. The reforms that we have initiated and the work that is underway will enable us, yes, as I said, to improve our logistics system, to achieve water security, and ultimately it will lead to the creation of jobs. While our challenges have never been greater, our response to these challenges will lead us to greater prosperity than we have ever known. One of the worst injustices of apartheid was the manner in which education was used as a tool to perpetuate inequality and exploitation of black people. Over the 30 years, we have sought to use education as a tool to create equality and to empower our people. Our basic education outcomes are steadily improving across a range of measures. The latest matric pass rate at 82.9% is the highest ever achieved. And we congratulate the matriculants of 2023 for achieving this incredible pass rate. And with each new year, learners from no-fee schools are accounting for more and more bachelor passes that are achieved. And as I have often said, this is the silent revolution that is underway, that the children of the poorest parents in our country are now able to produce pass rates that are equal, that are even beginning to surpass the pass rates that you find in former Model C schools, in your independent schools as well. This is the progress that we've been longing to see in our education system. At the same time, fewer learners are dropping out of school. We have increased funding for poor and working class students in universities and TVET colleges significantly over the past 5 years. Over the next 5 years, we will focus our attention on expanding access to early childhood development and improving early grade learning and reading, where we are already beginning to see progress. Moving early childhood development to the Department of Basic Education was one of the most important decisions that we have taken, as we are now able to devote more resources to early childhood development and ensure that through cooperative governance, various departments of government do get involved in the childhood development programs augmented and led by the Department of Basic Education. Our policies and programs have, over the course of 30 years, lifted millions of people out of dire poverty. Today, fewer South Africans go hungry and fewer live in poverty. In 1993, South Africa faced a significant poverty challenge, with 71.1% of its population living in poverty. However, under the democratic government, there has been a consistent decline in these numbers. By 2010, the poverty rate had dropped to 60.9%, and it continued to decrease, reaching 55.5% in 2020, as reported by the World Bank. Now, this progress has been made possible by extensive support to those in society who need it most. 5 years ago, we introduced a further measure to tackle poverty by introducing the national minimum wage as envisaged in the Freedom Charter. The decision by key role players, they being business and labor and communities, they took a decision to introduce the national minimum wage. And this has immediately raised the wages of over 6 million workers who support their families. In the midst of the pandemic, we introduced the special SRD grant, which currently reaches some 9 million unemployed people every month. We have seen the benefits of this grant and will extend it and improve it as the next step towards income support for the unemployed. These grants and subsidies do much more than give people what they need to live. They are an investment in the future. Many people tend to dismiss this and say we are establishing a dependent society. We are investing in our people and investing in their future as well. Social assistance has shown to increase school enrollment and attendance. It has also shown to lower dropout rates, and it has also improved pass rates. This is what social assistance to our people does. South Africans today are living longer than ever before. Life expectancy has increased from 54 years in 2003 to 65 years in 2023. The World Health Organization, DG, says this is a phenomenal development because many countries do not just move from a 55 years of life expectancy to 65. Maternal and infant deaths have declined dramatically. We have built more hospitals and clinics, especially in poor areas, providing better quality of care to more South Africans. We are building new hospitals, and one of those, which is a state-of-the-art type of hospital, is the Limpopo Academic Hospital, which is currently under construction as we speak. Now, I had, anecdotally, a good representation of how our healthcare system has been improving. When the ANC held its anniversary birthday, there was a bus accident where 5 people passed away and scores were injured. They were taken to our hospitals in Mpumalanga and in Limpopo. Now, I went to see some of them, and when they were asked that, don't you want to move to a private hospital because you are on a private medical aid as a result of your job or whatever, many of them said no. We are being well looked after here. Now, I see you love this. Now, this is what I experienced in just talking to those people who were lying in bed, who were injured, who testified that they were being well looked after in rural hospitals in Limpopo and in Mpumalanga. Today, 95 persons diagnosed with HIV know their status. 79% of those receive antiretroviral treatment, and 93 of those are virally suppressed. New HIV infections among young people have declined significantly. And yet, while our health system has had great impact on people's lives, we are working to improve both the quality of healthcare and equality of access. The National Health Insurance Bill has been passed by this House, both houses, and that will provide free health care at the point of care for all South Africans, whether in the public or private health facilities. Now, the bill has arrived on my desk. I'm going through the bill. Yes, I'm looking for a pen. I'm looking for a pen. We plan to incrementally implement the NHI, dealing with issues like the health system financing, the health workforce, medical products, vaccines, and technologies, and health information systems. One of the most visible, impactful, and meaningful achievements of the first 3 decades of freedom has been in providing homes to our people. Today, nearly 9 out of every 10 households live in a formal dwelling, as said by the Statistician General. Where there were once shacks and mud houses with thatch roof, they are now homes of brick and mortar. There are homes with water to drink and to wash with, homes with electricity for lighting and cooking. At the end of apartheid, only 6 out of 10 people had access to clean water. Today, the figure has increased to nearly 9 out of 10 South Africans. We are working to ensure that subsidized housing is located close to work, close to education and other services. But for services to be delivered, local government has to work. Now, when it comes to housing, we are also embarking on new and innovative funding mechanisms. We have tested this in the Northern Cape, where we are doing what we call front loading. And we launched together with Premier Zamani Sol a project that will result in 4,500 houses for R1 billion funded through the Development Bank of South Africa. Now, this is an innovative way, and we are now putting into practice these new methods of funding infrastructure to enable us to ramp up infrastructure so that the infrastructure build can power our economy and create more jobs. Too many municipalities are failing on governance, financial, and service delivery measures. These constraints affect every aspect of our people's daily lives. We have started the implementation of a number of measures to address this problem by providing support to local government, including professionalizing the civil service and ensuring that people with the right skills and the appropriate capability are appointed to key positions. That people are not appointed because they know so and so and so and so. The presidency, the National Treasury, and COCTA are working together to enhance technical capacity in local government and to improve planning, coordination, as well as fiscal oversight. Now, through the presidential imbizos that we have held across the country, we have seen how the district development model has brought together all spheres of government and key stakeholders to address the service delivery challenges in communities. The district development model has proven to be an effective instrument to enhance cooperative governance and collaboration. Through this model, we are breaking down the silos that we often find in government, where we enhance government departments working together and all layers of government also working together, adhering to what is set out in our Constitution. We will continue to broaden and deepen this process. Tackling crime and insecurity is a key priority. South Africans deserve to live in a safe environment, to walk freely without fear in their neighborhoods and public spaces. During this administration, we have focused on equipping our law enforcement agencies, which had been systematically weakened, to do their work effectively. We have strengthened the ranks of the police through the recruitment of 20,000 police officers, as I announced in the past two SONAs over the last 2 years, and another 10,000 will be recruited in this year as well. An extra 5,000 police officers have been deployed to public order policing. The South African Police Service has launched a very effective operation or initiative, which is Operation Shanela, as a new approach to target crime hotspots, which has resulted in over 285,000 arrests since May last year. The economic infrastructure task teams that are operational in all provinces have had important successes in combating cable theft, damage to critical infrastructure, as well as illegal mining. Through close collaboration with the private sector, we have seen a reduction in security incidents on the rail network. We launched the new Border Management Authority last year to improve the security of our borders and have already stopped well over 100,000 people who tried to enter our country illegally. Together with the civil society, we developed the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence. Together with civil society and as a society-wide response to this pandemic, around 21 billion rand has been dedicated over the medium term to the implementation of the 6 pillars of the plan, including the economic empowerment of women. New laws were introduced to strengthen the response to the criminal justice system, gender-based violence, and provide better support to survivors of such violence. Our ultimate goal is to end gender-based violence altogether by mobilizing all of society. And as part of this, we support the call for a pledge that men in South Africa should be invited to sign, to take and demonstrate, to ensure that they demonstrate their personal commitment to ending this scourge. Now, this initiative of signing a pledge was initiated by young boys at a school called Benedict. They have drafted a pledge that men should commit and sign to. And we discussed it at the Cabinet Lekgotla and felt that we collectively as the men of South Africa as well, taking our cue from young boys at the school, should also be mobilized to sign this pledge. Women are also drafting their own pledge, which will speak to the issues of women and their experiences on gender-based violence. This pledge, yes, will be flighted publicly, and I will be, and the Deputy President and everyone else in Cabinet will be the first to sign this pledge. We still have a long way to go to build safer communities, to prevent violent crime, and protect our infrastructure. But there is no doubt that a professional, well-trained and properly resourced police force working closely with our communities will make our country a safer place. And there is therefore a further call for the setting up of community policing forums that should be effective, which we as government have committed to fund. Today, every South African can hold their heads high, confident that we have assumed our rightful place on the world stage. We remain committed to playing a constructive role on our continent and around the world for the realization of a better Africa and a better world. We will continue to play an important role to silence the guns throughout our continent. Our engagement with the parties in the Russia-Ukraine conflict through the Africa Peace Initiative are progressing. We engage in these peace efforts because we believe that even the most intractable conflicts can be brought to an end through negotiations. Guided by the fundamental principle of human rights and freedom, we have taken up the Palestinians' cause to prevent further deaths and destructions in Gaza. We know that there are some in our nation who do not support this cause that we have embarked upon. We have welcomed the ruling of the International Court of Justice that Israel must take all measures within its power to prevent acts of genocide against Palestinians. And we condemn the killing of civilians on all sides and call on all parties involved in the conflict to commit to a peace process that will deliver a two-state solution as resolved by the United Nations. We will use our foreign policy to pursue our development goals. During our leadership of BRICS last year, we witnessed a new chapter for BRICS, the BRICS family of countries. The expansion of the group from 5 to 10 countries presents opportunities for trade and a strengthening of political and diplomatic ties between countries in the global south. We will build on the progress we have made in establishing the African Continental Free Trade Area, which will transform South Africa's economy and that of the continent by creating new jobs and increasing economic participation across our continent. And we will place Africa's development at the top of the agenda when we as South Africa host the G20 next year in 2025. The achievements over the last 3 decades are a testament to the power of collaboration and partnership to address our most pressing challenges. Our country has a vibrant civil society, a powerful union movement, and an engaged private sector. Over the last 5 years, we have worked with these social partners to address challenges such as to keep people safe and to distribute vaccines during the COVID-19 pandemic, and to mobilize a society-wide response to gender-based violence. In the past year, we have come together with our social partners to end load shedding, to address the challenges in the logistics sector, to tackle crime and corruption, and to also accelerate job creation. This is the South African way of building a social compact, working together on tangible issues, and it will be the key to building a new society in the years to come. This is the last State of the Nation address of the 6th Democratic Administration. NgesiZulu kunelizwi elithi sizawubuya, futhi sizawuthi masibuyile abantu bazothi ibuyile, ngoba izoba ibuyile ngempela. Labo abangathi bayajabula uma ngithi this is the last State of the Nation address, bacabanga ukuthi asinawubuya, sizawubuya khona la kule ndawo. The last 5 years have been a period of recovery, rebuilding, and renewal. We have had to revitalize our economy after more than a decade of poor economic performance. We have had to rebuild our public institutions after the era of state capture. We have had to recover from a devastating global pandemic that caused great misery and hardship, that closed businesses and cost our nation many jobs and lives. And we have had to confront and overcome a debilitating electricity crisis that, despite significant improvement in recent months, continues to hold back our economy. We have come a long way in the last 5 years. We have built on the achievements of the last 3 decades, and we have taken decisive measures to address the immediate challenges facing South Africans. We have restored the independence and capability of our law enforcement agencies to tackle corruption and crime. We have worked to advance the rights of persons with disability. We took great pride in making South African Sign Language the 12th official language of our country. We have safeguarded and promoted the basic rights in our Constitution, such as freedom of speech, freedom of the press, association and belief. We have defended, yes, media freedom, and we have also defended the independence of the judiciary. We have protected and advanced the rights of members of the LGBTQI+ community and continue to combat all forms of prejudice and intolerance. and particularly also to people with albinism. We have made significant progress on measures to grow our economy, to create jobs, and to reduce poverty. While we have set in motion the process of renewal and reform, there is more work to be done to see these reforms through to the end. We will see the work that is underway and ensure that it goes ahead. Mishumo iraithoma kahe mingwaha mitano iko bvela phanda idodzula ichivela phanda leyo yonke lemisebenzi esayiqala izawuqhubeka bayathanda noma abathandi izawuqhubeka. And working with our partners, we will be able to revive our economy. Yes, we will tackle and deal with the debilitating effects of load shedding, our ports, and the logistics. We will continue to strengthen our law enforcement institutions. And we will continue to tackle gender-based violence and fight corruption to make South Africa a safe place for all. We will continue to strengthen local government. The initiatives that I spoke to will go ahead. We will professionalize the public service and increase the capacity of the state so that the state can serve our people better. And we will ensure, as the Auditor General has said, that we should hold those in office accountable and there should be consequence management for those who do wrong things. We will continue to position our economy to grow and compete in a fast-changing world. And we will also support small businesses by providing funding, by providing resources to small and medium enterprises, and to give young people opportunities to thrive and to start their own businesses and to succeed, and to provide social protection to the vulnerable. We will continue the work to improve the country's fiscal position and hold firm to a sound macroeconomic trajectory. We will use the opportunities provided by the African Free Continental Trade Area to increase our trade and expand our industries. We will continue to protect workers' rights and improve their well-being in places of work and to make sure that our workers are well treated. We will continue to build an inclusive economy, focusing on the empowerment of Black people and women, South Africans. Yes, we will intensify land reform and pursue a just energy transition that leaves no one behind. Fellow South Africans, as we celebrate these 30 years of freedom, we must remain steadfast in our commitment to our constitutional democracy and its promise for a better life. We should not give in to those who resist the responsibility that the Constitution places on us to correct the injustices of the past and fundamentally transform our economy and society. We must remind these people of the obligation that the Constitution places on the state to progressively realize the rights of everyone to housing, healthcare, food, water, social security, safety, and education. By the same measure, we should not allow anyone to diminish vital democratic institutions, to denigrate our judiciary, or to challenge the constitutional authority of this parliament. We should not give in to those who seek to divide our nation, to incite violence and undermine our democracy. As in the past, as in the future, the people of South Africa should stand together against any attempt to reverse the achievements of our democracy. As the chairperson of the Constitutional Assembly, I worked with many great leaders of our country to craft a constitution that truly reflects the will of South African people. As president, I see it as my primary duty to defend our constitution and to work every day to realize its promise. As we move forward, let us remember that it is up to us, not anyone else, to determine the future of South Africa. We are not passive observers of our history. We are its authors. We are the builders of this country that we call home. As we look towards the next 30 years of freedom, we must choose the kind of country and indeed the kind of world we want to create for ourselves and our children. We are committed to a South Africa in which our common identity lies in our recognition of each other's humanity. We want a country in which every person is free to be exactly who they are, regardless of their race, their gender, their sexual orientation, their ethnicity, or their religion. We want a country in which the same opportunities are available to every child, whether they are born in Sandton, in Mdantsane, in Sikukuni, in Mitchell's Plain, or in Phoenix. We want a country in which the rule of law applies to everyone, no matter how wealthy they are or what position they hold. As we continue the journey towards making this vision a reality, we are inspired by democracy's children, by their energy, by their creativity and their enthusiasm. We are inspired by the young people who have carried our hopes onto the global stage with their music, with their dance. We are inspired by, yes, the Grammy Award winner who won the Grammy Award recently, like Tyler. We are inspired by Bafana Bafana. We are also inspired by the Springboks. Yes, they inspire us. As we mark the 30th anniversary of our freedom, we are reminded of the words of our President Nelson Mandela, who said that after climbing a great hill, one only finds that there are many more hills to climb. That is where we are. And he said, I have taken time to rest, to steal a view of the glorious vistas that surrounds me, to look back on the distance I have come. But I can rest only for a moment, for with freedom comes responsibilities, and I dare not linger, for my long walk is not yet ended. Washo uMandela wathi isende lendlela, inde lendlela tsela ena e sampane le telle, go tlameile hore re tsamaye tsela ena, re a rata kapa re rate, setse re le tseleng. While we have come far, yes, we still have a long way to go. Like Madiba, we must keep moving. Always forward, always onwards, towards the country of our dreams. Always believing that our victory is certain, because indeed it is certain. Kialebuha na kensa ndialibuwa ikhensile ngiyabonga kubo bonke abantu balapha eMzansi Afrika nilale kahle ngiyabonga.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable President, delegates and members of Parliament. Please allow me at this point to thank the President for the address. After I have adjourned this joint sitting, members should rise and remain at their places until the procession has left the chamber. The guests in the gallery should remain seated until the judiciary has left and the ushers indicate that the doors are open. The procession led by the usher of the Black Rod and the acting sergeant at arms will leave the chamber in the following order. The Speaker of the National Assembly, the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, the President, the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, the Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, the Deputy President, and then the Secretary to Parliament. Honorable members, that concludes the business for the day, and the joint sitting is adjourned.
Having concluded the much anticipated State of the Nation Address 2024. Why was there much anticipation about it? Because it is the last State of the Nation Address of the 6th administration under his helm since he was sworn in way back in 2018 as head of state. 2, it is happening a few months before the general election, whose date we are still